Folks, in 1951, guys were selling stuff door to door big time. Here's a Bible. It's not really a real Bible, it's a travesty. What they would actually use, if you look inside, you can see a heavy embossing here that made the outside feel real quality. It actually had a picture of, Jesus, Mary, Joseph. You would think it would be a Protestant Bible at first. Out guys went like this to start selling. They were told to go door to door, not to give up. Let's take a look at a guy selling vacuum cleaners door to door. See what it was like in the 50s, a little sense here. He does his presentation, does the show and tell for the lady, let her see what the benefits are going to be of making a purchase. Anyway, back to the Bible. There's a guy right here on the right, you can see him, Martindale. He bills himself as a reverend or a Protestant here. And down here we have the logo, which we'll look at just a little bit later. The top of this logo is sometimes called a firmament. It's a phoenix bird picking a worm. It has two things called pillars down by the side of it, and the phoenix bird's legs are almost like a round seal being pressed into another seal. And that's just what the way the logo was. Anyway, the guys selling vacuum cleaners were told, hey guys, get rid of those cigarettes. You're going out and you're selling some Bibles. Get cleaned up. You're going to start going door to door. We're going to slow down your pitch and sell these Bibles. Why can't you sell more? Well, the publishing companies did a focus group. They got together and found out when they looked at the numbers, Catholics and Protestants fought one another. I mean, they fought. You take a guy like this here, says, if I ever catch a Catholic Bible in my house, I'll rip it in pieces and I'll tear something apart. Here's the Catholic, says, if I ever catch a Protestant Bible, you wasting our money on it, I'll tear your shirt off and I'll throw the Bible away. So that was no problem for the merchants. No problem at all. What they simply did was got an apostate. Says, number one, let's emphasize Peter. Let's make Peter the focus on this Bible instead of Jesus Christ. Let's get a real touchy-feely kind of presentation, slow it way down. Unfortunately, a lot of convicted felons showed up for this kind of work. There was no kind of background check. A guy could just show up. You guys got to be pushy. Hey, lady, I'm coming in here. I want to show you this Bible. No, I'm not ready right now. I don't care if I got to stand out here 5 more minutes or 25. I need you to look at the pictures of this Bible. This is a Bible. It's got some great pictures. So there was, and another thing, you got guys like this with a bad hat and their sunglasses. Some of these guys' kids were starting to disappear out of child molesters, starting to disappear out of playgrounds. That basically killed door-to-door sales. Criminals, felonious, all that. But for a while, it was great guns. Now let's look at this thing. See this guy's name down here? When we get down to the old guy, you can see him. All right, Martindale. He calls himself a reverend. So why would he call himself? That's a Protestant name. So when this guy gets pissed, he goes, oh, wait a minute, Reverend Martindale, hey, we're good. However, if you just turn the same page over, Martindale changes his name to Father Martindale, so you can point out to the Catholics, Father Martindale, this guy's a real something else. He says, and then it says, oh yeah, well, I'm not so sure about this Bible. You look a little closer, and the publishers say there could be some viewer misgivings, but Father Martindale kind of gives the okay. And you call this a Bible for Protestants and Catholics, and they kept making money. This guy we'll look at later on. He really was something, a real snake in the grass. Anyway, on page 1, it starts out just backwards from Bible with the New Testament story of Jesus. It's supposed to, when it says Bible like this, and it says Bible like this, and inside the flyleaf it says Bible, that means you have an Old Testament and a New Testament. Well, halfway through this thing, right about here, it turns into the Old Testament about the story of creation. See it there? And then you think the rest of the other half would be the Old Testament, but not so. It's been doctored. It's a trick. It's not all Old Testament, the last half. Well, anyway, guys get back out selling these things, and it works. The numbers go up. People say, if a lady says, is that kind of the wings of a phoenix bird? Is that the feet of a phoenix bird? And is that a little bit of the beak right there, picking that worm out? No, you say, absolutely not, ma'am. It's just part of this stamp logo right here. You can see it's just the embossing with the stamping went in. Nothing to see here, nothing to see here at all. Well, you pop this thing open, and I'm going to go right now. See these sections I'm showing with my fingers? I'm going to pretend to give you a so-called virtual sales pitch. I'm going to play 16 of these slides. I'm not going to say too much. And you just take this if you can. That'll kind of show you what it was like if a guy was holding this in front of your face. I'll come back after the 16 slides. We'll do a little bit more investigative work. Well, folks, how did it go? Did you get ready to make a purchase here? Well, let's get back to the Old Testament, how they doctored this thing. I'm going to put my fingers right down here from the so-called Old Testament portion, and right here it cuts off and goes to a verse to mine or get money out of congregations called Ananias and Sapphira. So the merchants in the temple basically love this one. Now here's some Father C.C. Martindale / Reverend Martindale. A real piece of work. He was a Catholic if you needed a Catholic. He was a Protestant if you needed a Protestant. Let's check his pedigree out. What he really did, he wrote books about the Mass. He was a Mary-worshipping Catholic, no doubt about it. Other books, he wrote books about Our Lady of Lourdes on the side. He was a Catholic. But he would call himself Reverend to make a nickel. Here they took his name off. You can still buy this thing if you want to go to a company that will remain nameless that sells a lot of books online. And they strip his name out here a little bit. However, on another one, to emphasize the picture portion, they put his name back in here. You can see him right up there, Martindale. And this thing stunk up the joint so bad they had to finally change the cover to this like here and just pitch it as, hey guys, look at the pictures. These are called Master's Edition, great pictures, and leave everybody's name off. Now, here's how they overemphasize Peter. You talk about the crucifixion, anything with Jesus, and the next thing's going to be Peter. Look at here. Here's what they say Jesus said about, look at this, our national life is still green. Did Jesus say that on the cross? He never said our national life is still green. If you were doing revolution theology and a Catholic priest had an AK-47, they might doctor that in. Let me show you what Jesus Christ really said. He said, for if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? But this Bible would do anything to make a deal, especially these Jehovah's Witnesses. Here's Charles Taze Russell. Now, we don't want to beat up on him, but in 1951, they didn't have a Bible. They had nothing. They had a broken down New Testament they were trying to patch together. And so, what did they do here, the publishing company? Hey, we're going to help. We're going to put the word Jehovah right about here for you. And you're going to have the word Jehovah and some other things that's going to fall right into your doctrine. And we're going to sell you tons of these things. Not artwork, look at this. They have, the artist makes this almost a hook-nosed Jew, counting, minting and coining money, and other Jews holding a money bag. This is not in any verse in the Bible about Jews making money and putting it in a money bag. A little bit of anti-Semitism, but they did what they had to do. Catholic art with the angel has kind of horns out of the back. They say, well, the angel's wings go up. A little bit later, the angel's wings go down. Well, Simon the sorcerer. Look how they make Peter go real soft and tell him, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. What did Peter really say? He says, repent therefore of this thy wickedness, and pray to God, if perhaps the thought of thine heart may be forgiven thee. They changed it all around. Now, to make Peter look real good, if you want to look something up back here, anytime Jesus does something like Jesus in Phoenicia, power at the hill, they talk about Peter. You want to talk about the Lord's Supper, next thing is Peter's confidence. See it up there? Just completely whitewashed. And between these two parts of my fingers, Peter's is already mentioned. It shows how much they saturated it. He is indeed risen. Next thing is Peter and the risen Lord. It doesn't end here. Miracles of Peter and Cornelius. So they were able to gently kind of ease Jesus Christ aside in their minds and get more sales that way. Well, they said, wait a minute now, is there anything else we could do to start selling some more Bibles? What do we have to do? Well, back to this logo again. That top thing called a firmament, a lot of people don't know what that is. A firmament on the side is the pillars of the earth and the feet. If you look up the word firmament in a real Bible here, it's mentioned about 15 times. Many pastors are loath to look at this. It tells you, and God called the firmament heaven. That's that kind of a upside down globe on top of that thing. Now, the pillars of the earth set the world upon the pillars. Those are the pillars that you see right here on the side of the phoenix bird. The phoenix bird is pecking out a dead worm out of his corner there. The Bible tells us that the worm doesn't die and the fire is not quenched in hell. In fact, Jesus Christ in this red ink says hell into the fire. See that there? And then over just a little bit later, right here, he says where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. Certain occult practices believe indeed the worm does die and the fire gets quenched. It doesn't happen. Look at this Bible verse here. The earth is like a seal in hot wax, and it comes up like that. That's what that phoenix bird's feet are trying to portray. Now here, if you were to put a lot of Bible verses together, you'd get something like this. I mean just something like this. There's somewhat of a dome on the earth, but of course, which is called the firmament. But let's get back. We don't want to get too far afield. Let's get back here to the actual Bible. and see some of the monkey business these guys did. If people didn't want to see a cross, you held your thumb up like this. Hey folks, I got something to help the kids. It's going to make. If they were happy with the cross, you put your thumb down and said, folks, this is a Christian Bible. Got the cross here. Now back to Charles Taze Russell and Jehovah's Witnesses. They've got no Bible, and they have an incessant need to prove everybody else wrong, and that Jesus. Look here. Back in '61, it took them to even get their Bible together, and that was just because the Vietnam War was lighting off. They needed to have a way where they could say, hey, here's why we're not going to fight, and we're not going to enter in. Look at this, how many times they had to have copyright changes in this Bible. Just a rush job. Many places say that it was disingenuous. You look it up, it says one of the worst things ever happened is a deliberate distortion of the truth. They had 5 so-called good time boys that did the so-called translation. But if you're going to try to prove everybody else wrong, you got to come up with something. 1950, it says they had a New Testament. Not really, it wasn't much. 61 barely had their Bible, then they had to change it. Well, back to the merchants of the publishing company. They're basically, hey, what do we got to do here? Show me what you got to do. Well, we got to get the Farther Martindales and the chameleons back out again. And we've got one more thing to do. We're going to really not kowtow, but we're going to work with these Jehovah's Witnesses to get even more Bibles. Now, here's a picture of the guy that actually told them to hurry up and get that Bible done before the Vietnam War to help with their deferments and some other things. Failed predictions. Okay, they have to soften this failed predictions. So let's get the Bible involved. I mean, if you're going to spend that kind of money, let's work on it. One failed prediction type of thing is the maps. If you doctor the maps, you take away the legend with how many miles it is from north, south, east, and west. This means 10 miles, this means 20 miles. Remove that, or remove the landmarks. You can't get caught in an argument. There's a strong argument out there that says Jesus could not walk from here to here. It's only about 20-some miles. I mean, a good hiker or a special forces guy could walk that far. But by the doctoring these maps, it gets away from getting caught from a false prophecy or a false teaching. You can see up here how in the legend up there it shows where the miles are. So this is the kind of thing that they would do. Now, the salesman started getting pissed, saying, lady, I don't want to see no maps. Are you either going to buy it or not? I'm tired of all this stuff. The salesmen were burning out. They weren't really squared away. And then we had a fresh round of criminals coming in. Really guys stealing stuff, taking stuff out of the home. Some of the criminals were involved in maps like this. We won't really belabor it, but see where the pencil is showing where it's... Now, another one was the Negroid features in the artwork. When Philip baptized an Ethiopian, what they did is they got a guy on the art staff and completely removed all Ethiopian features from this guy on the right and gently darkened his face, called him the Ethiopian. During the actual baptism that you see right here, they made him look just like a bunch of ink. You couldn't see it. Any art student would be fired for doing something like that. Here in the margins, you can see they get thicker and thicker to save money on ink. Now look at the wings on this. See the wings of a phoenix bird-style wings down on this thing? That if a Bible salesman was really desperate, he'd say, look, lady, here you can hide money in this thing. Forget if you don't like the Bible. You said your husband would never look here. Right down here, lady, you put the money in here, you take the pencil, you shove it, and when you need them, your husband will never find it. In fact, you told me your husband didn't like Bibles. And you could put $5 or $105 in here, pencil shoves it out, and there you are. And lady, this is a special binding. I guarantee your husband will not find this money. Show me, she says, okay? He pulls the Bible like this, opens the cover, and look at that. It looks sealed like there's no money in there. So desperation drove a lot of sales. Lots of monkey business was going on. Well, that came to the point, no cross. So again, the artists, the reprobate artists, were told, you can't have a cross, whatever you got to do. Now, a cross is defined as 3, left, up, and to the right, and something on the bottom. But those top 3 sections are a cross. The bottom could be stuck in the earth. You couldn't see it. Here you can see there's a couple of these crosses. You can see the top 3 points, a left cross beam, a right cross beam. Now here, every time this cross is going to be somehow doctored in the photo where you can't see the full cross. It either runs out, it runs off the page. Here's Jesus carrying the cross. And even during the crucifixion, it was bad. So there was no stone they wouldn't soil to make these things. Here you can see, you don't even get to see all the part of the cross as well. Then it got to the point, commercial sales. I want you guys to get going to every doctor's office, every insurance company, put a piece of paper on top of the Bible and get positive. Now this is back in the 50s, you could do stuff like that. Knock on the door, go in and tell them with your biggest smile, hey, how you doing? I notice you don't have a Bible in here. I've got something right here. Look at this. And then the old folks, oh my, they had to take a hit towards the end there. Now, what killed it is guys like this showing up, no social skills, and that's the end of the Bible sales. Anyway, folks, hope you've enjoyed this. This gives you a little glimpse into the past, kind of why it killed, door-to-door sales. And you know what? If you get a chance, why don't you go ahead and read the Bible cover to cover? And from there on, what you'll be able to do is when you see an old book or something, you'll be able to look at it and say, hey, you know what? I remember something in the Bible about that, about the firmament, about the pillars of the earth, about Ananias and Sapphira. Some pastors and churches will mine like a miner, use that verse to mine money. Now, Peter wasn't a bad guy, Look at the bottom here. He did have 2 books of the Bible named after him. Of course, John had 3, but let's do this. Let's give Peter a second chance here, what this Bible did to him. I'm going to go ahead and just play, basically without comment, these verses in the background, which is one of the books named after Peter. This is the right way to emphasize Peter, what he really said, what he really did, and of course you can mirror that against what Jesus Christ did. By the way, what did Jesus Christ do? Right, died on a cross for your sins, for mine, for the sins of the world. And he did say he's coming back again. He says, I came once, and I'm coming back again. It's going to be a little different. And you can read that for yourself. Anyway, take care, Lord bless. I'm going to snap off the audio portion and just scroll these verses in the back. Hope it blesses you a little bit. And beware of buying any kind of Bible nowadays. They're even worse. I checked some here the other day. There's an unbelievable, I guess you could say liberties were taken with doctoring the content of the Bible. Bye for now.